And as we were getting prepared to walk in here and have a great conversation with you, we think things got even more interesting now that a trade has gone down. Pascal Siakam off the table, now an Indiana Pacer, and so many things can go in a variety of different ways in terms of the Sixers and many others. Does that mean they have to jump on it really quickly now and get some things going? Start off first, Kyle, what's going on, man? Good to see you in the studio after 2 days in the arena. Didn't see this one happening right away.
I was going to say, can we still consider it an emergency when we were all supposed to show up for work today? Like I was under the impression that we were going to do a show, but hey, it is an emergency just
I had to raise my voice for the open, so that's an emergency.
Hey, listen.
There you go. Sound the alarms.
Big trade for anybody who is catching up in real time, because not all of you are sickos like me and Derek and Devon who might have text and tweet notifications on for Woj and Shams. The Toronto Raptors have sent Pascal Siakam to the Indiana Pacers in exchange for Bruce Brown, Jordan Nwora, and 3 first-round picks. Another component that I'm still trying to figure out why they did this, I think it might be luxury tax reasons. The New Orleans Pelicans are also sending Kyra Lewis to the Raptors as part of the deal. Derek, do you have any details on the picks that Indiana is sending to Toronto?
Yeah, so to your point, the Pelicans are $3 million over the luxury tax right now. Lewis is making 5.7, so that was probably to duck the tax. The Raptors are getting 3 first-round picks, like Kyle mentioned. 2 of them coming in 2024. One of them would be the Pacers' own. The other one is the least valuable of Oklahoma City, Houston, the Clippers, and Utah. So given that 2 of those teams are very, very good in OKC and the Clippers, that's going to be a very late first-round pick. The other one is a 2026 first-round pick, and that is, again, the Pacers' own pick. So probably 3 relatively bad draft picks.
Yeah, and I think part of that speaks to, I think there's been some early reporting from Woj, et cetera, that there's been at least an indication Siakam could sign long-term in Indiana. But to get 3 firsts and you're still looking at it like, I don't know, those are kind of iffy value-wise. That shows you that there's a little uncertainty in the marketplace about what Siakam is going to do next. I would still say, though, to start this, now that we've laid out the terms, I don't know that this puts the Pacers in that upper echelon of Eastern Conference teams or in the top 3 with Boston, Milwaukee, Philly. But I certainly think that this is a major upgrade, major acquisition for them. I think unlike in Philly, where we had a lot of conversations about him next to Joel Embiid, there's some offensive concerns there. I think he fits great next to Halliburton and Miles Turner in the front court, especially. Miles Turner as a stretch big opens up the floor for both Siakam and Halliburton. Isn't a guy who needs touches in the same areas that Siakam does. Halliburton's going to get Siakam a lot of easy looks as an off-ball cutter, stuff like that. Siakam's going to have plenty of room to handle the ball, to ISO, to do his thing from the mid-post. I think this is like a hand-in-glove fit for them, and I think this very clearly solidifies them as probably the 4th best team in the East, and it's a team that, if you're Boston, who looks like the runaway favorite to be the number 1 seed in the East right now, I'm not going to be thrilled about playing Indiana in a potential second-round series. I think you were probably thinking before, whoever you might draw as the 1 seed in that second round, you'd probably feel okay about it. I would feel less okay now, just little more defensive solidity in the front court, and you have some extra offensive options, certainly, in Siakam.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is why, we've spoken a lot in the lead up to the trade deadline, like which team does it make sense to offer the most in a trade? Siakam, I think, is maybe the perfect example of this because I've always struggled with him in regards to Sixers because on the one hand, I probably like him as a player better than any other potential player that was on the market, better than OG in a vacuum, better than Levine, better than DeJounte, just as a pure player. But, I think there's a lot that he does well. 2-way player, good size, good athleticism, can create off the bounce, can cut, can play off ball, versatile defender, can, handle a little bit and create for others. But the shooting has been a big question mark with the Sixers. best player out of the group, maybe the worst fit of the group. But for the Pacers, that fit, a lot of those concerns go out the window. I think he's going to have a really good two-man game out there with the Pacers, and I think it makes sense for them to give up what they gave up. On the one hand, what they gave up really isn't, like, if you were talking about the Sixers giving up 3 first-round picks, the ones the Sixers had to offer are more valuable in trade than the ones that the Pacers gave away. So Sixers would have had to give more to get him. It didn't really make sense because the fit was questionable. I do like this a lot for the Pacers. You know, they had I don't think they had traded any of their own first-round picks in the future, so they had a lot of picks to work with in addition to that one extra 2024 first-round pick to spend 3 of them, 3 pretty low-value picks, and get a major, major upgrade that should be a good long-term fit with Haliburton. I think this makes sense. I think it made sense for them to be the most aggressive team for Siakam services. And it does leave the Sixers in a bit of a bad spot, in part because the Eastern Conference just got a little bit tougher, pretty significantly tougher. That potential first-round matchup or second-round matchup is now tougher than it was 24 hours ago, but also because there is another not only trade target, but free agent target off the board.
You add a multi-time All-Star with that team that was already a fast-paced, high-paced team with a All-Star right there in Tyrese Haliburton for what they like to do, and Pascal Siakam being now a second ball handler. When you look at their lineup before, whether it was Buddy Hield or having someone else at that guard or any of those wing positions, there was never really anybody that you looked at and said, you're really concerned about them creating the offense. That was strictly for what Tyrese Haliburton has done and what he does. Now, with Pascal Siakam at that size, at 6'7", at that wing position, to take some of that pressure off of Tyrese Haliburton, not that he was having a problem doing so, leading the league in assists, of course, leading the vote getting in terms of the guards, what he's doing in the Eastern Conference. He's been phenomenal. And yes, he is. Dan asked the question, is he still hurt? Yeah, he's supposed to be out reevaluated in about 2 weeks with that injury. So now you give him another second ball handler who you can trust, who has played in big games in the playoffs and the NBA Finals. You have a great coach in Rick Carlisle. And it also does some wonders potentially for Miles Turner because of the outside shooting, but also a pretty good pick and roll, pick and pop type of partner because it doesn't just have to be Tyrese Haliburton there carrying that responsibility anymore. You have a core piece there defensively, as Derek and Kyle have talked about. If he's engaged, he's a good defender. He's a really good defender, and it's something that you can do there. So Bruce Brown, as good as he is and has been in helping to win Denver their championship a season ago, this is an upgrade in a big way when you're talking about a 2-time All-Star and a champion that can come in and now change the trajectory a little bit sooner to what the Indiana Pacers were at the time to where they are right now and going forward.
That being said, if I were a Pacers fan, what I would be concerned about aren't the draft picks they gave up. It's a little bit Bruce Brown. I think that's a really helpful player for them. It's really the contract, though. That next contract is going to be terrifying. I don't think he is. I like Pascal a lot. I don't think he's going to be worth the contract he is going to command. You know, I do think there's a lot of are they taking a huge gamble that he won't resign? No, I don't think that's the case. I think a lot of the talk of, he doesn't want to be traded anywhere right now. That comes down to that Supermax eligibility, which, as a reminder, you can only get the Supermax if you are on the team that drafted you, unless you're traded, I think, within the first 4 years. Pascal is not within the first 4 years of contract. He's on that second NBA contract. So if he is traded, he loses Supermax eligibility. I didn't think he was a strong candidate to get that eligibility because he would need to make an all-NBA team this year. I don't think he has a good chance of doing that, but a lot of times players will hold on to that as long as they can. I think that's where a lot of this bluster of he doesn't want to be traded came from. Now that the reality is he is traded, I think he's going to look at it and say, I can make the most money with the Pacers. I can get the most years from the Pacers. This is a good opportunity for me to win with the Pacers. I don't think he's a huge flight risk, and that impacts the Sixers in a big way.
We all silly like the mayor.